Dawn of the Monsters is a beat-em-up where you get to fight kaijus, that is, giant monsters, as either a big mech, not Ultraman, or a big monster yourself. So obviously that generates immediate interest, especially since the developers are the creators of Runbow. One of the more noticeable things about this lane-based beat-em-up is that there's no crouching or jumping to be had. I suppose you're too big after all. Not that you can't juggle vomiting lizards into the air, but there's definitely a slower speed to this game. As you progress, you'll gain some combos to mix your light, heavy, and dash attack. There's a pretty handy parry system, plus dodging. Furthermore, there is a rage meter which builds up as you attack and can be spent on either your special moves or executions. These special moves can range from buffs to fire breathing, or in Ganira's case, letting you summon a cute little minion. While executions can be used to finish off foes faster, potentially giving you a throwing weapon if you rip off their head, and replenish some health. Using rage moves builds up another bar which is the Cataclysm meter, and when full you can unleash your ultimate attack, such as Megadons that sucks nearby enemies into a fiery tornado to unleash pretty hefty damage. Unless the boss dodges it, which first of all, how dare they? You will not only want to smash buildings, but might need to so that you can have a complete view of your surroundings and more throwing weapons. Occasionally there were guns we could use, and certain enemy projectiles can be thrown back at them if you're fast enough. The entire game can be played in local 2-player co-op, and it seems the difficulty is at least a little bit adjusted accordingly. Gameplay is slightly shaken up with environmental hazards such as lightning and sandstorms, along with at least one defense mission, plus dedicated nest and boss fights. The nests are levels where you'll have to whittle down tentacles before wailing off a quarter of the nest's health at a time, while more Nephilim, which is what the monsters are called in this game and I didn't clarify yet, come to stop you. There's a boss fight at the end of each chapter, and they're all pretty good, though I wish the first one wouldn't move so much. Enemy designs were well varied, with many bosses almost immediately becoming regular combatants, and certain types having upgraded versions as the game went on. One tip I have for the game, especially for any Final Fantasy XIV players, is that the AoE markers are not safe to walk into immediately after they disappear, because that's when the move will actually trigger. The game also has a training room you can use, although it's not nearly anywhere as customizable as I expected it to be. One of my particular issues with how the monsters spawn is that they are often off screen, so you'll drop your combo trying to find where they're hiding as you're not strictly locked into a smaller area. In co-op this can be annoying as you're somewhat tethered. Another co-op specific problem is that executions and cataclysms put the focus on who's triggering them, but the game still plays, albeit a bit slower, so I'm liable to get hit or mess up my moves while this is happening. The difficulty of the game started to heat up within the 3rd chapter, but not long after that we got some very handy augments, such as rage building up over time, which made things a bit easier. Augments are equipable in 3 different slots, and come in various tiers of value, which impacts how much they improve your stats. These can help modify your playstyle immensely, allowing you to be a rage attack spamming monster, not having any rage at all, giving a chance for enemies to drop pickups like buffs that do not happen in the game otherwise, reflecting damage with parries, or stunning nearby enemies when performing an execution, which can make for funny moments. Well, really, I could go on and on. Sometimes I would adjust them solely to deal with a particular boss. Traipsing through already evacuated cities, you'll come into combat with monsters spawning over time until they're all beat up, and you're awarded with a score mostly based on keeping the pressure on. Some of the levels felt particularly short and could have probably been spliced together, especially since there are multiple checkpoints. Upon completing a level, all your ranks are totaled to give the overall score, which will determine the quality of upgrade pieces you can pick from. A few of which will be shown at a time, but you can only keep a couple, or if you choose just one or neither, you can sell the augments for some nice needed cash. Earning an S+ rank will unlock you a unique palette swap, though some are unlocked simply through regular progress. Your money earned as a member of Dawn can be spent on custom colours or the occasional health, rage and cataclysm upgrades that will show as you make your way through the story. Other unlockables include the archives, where you can learn more about the lore of the world, and an art gallery in the main menu. There's a fair amount of focus on the story, which is presented both in pre- and post-level cutscenes, The entire game is voice acted, including the in-mission dialogue, which I do feel justifies the price a bit more. I don't think the story was bad by any means, but it does rely on the tropes of various big monster media, so nothing about it felt particularly special either. I thought the first world was rather bland, but maybe that's just how Toronto looks. Thankfully, it got a bit more varied in the later areas, as many levels would look largely the same, but there'd at least be a bit of variation between them and points of interest. The art style is comic-like with a heavy focus on black lines and shading, along with a chunky comic book style. Cutscenes are presented either in a visual novel format or like a motion comic. Also, in the loading screens, you get to see cute little pixel versions of some of the Nephilim. The music itself, while not a large focus, was appropriately heavy and blended in well with the action, and sounds pretty dang cool without all the noises of collateral damage. There weren't many glitches, the most annoying of which actually got fixed the literal week I finished the game, but when I went to record footage, one of the Ness fights bugged out and wouldn't start the next phase. Thankfully, it didn't happen in our original playthrough. Playing on Switch, there were a couple of moments where the frame rate went a bit funky, especially in the sand levels or when multiple rage attacks were flying around. They've since added a performance mode option which will hopefully alleviate the issue. Somehow I'm 2 months late to the review and I still had the issues getting patched out immediately after I beat them shenanigan. Dawn of the Monsters was a super fun beat 'em up to blast through, with enough variety and customization to make up for the heavier feel. It took us almost 8 hours to beat, though it might be closer to 7 if you don't get stuck on any particular boss fight. There is a minor level of replayability in terms of earning maximum rank, and they did add some challenges, most of which are pretty achievable. I have some small issues with how the fights are handled, but nothing game ruining. Overall, I think it's definitely worth playing for any beat 'em up fan, especially if you've got someone with whom you're drift compatible. I give Dawn of the Monsters a 7 out of 10. Bye!